This is Pantherian, what is said to be the world's most intense roller coaster. Before riding it, I was a strong believer that Pantherian was the world's most intense roller coaster. How could it not be? It's 305 feet tall, goes over 90 miles an hour, and has a first turn that makes most people black out. But after riding it, I realized that it really wasn't all that intense. Sure, the first turn did make me gray out on my first ride, but after riding it a few more times, it actually didn't even do that. Instead of being the world's most intense coaster, I think it could be the world's best coaster. It's not my number one, but it is the most well-rounded and probably best overall roller coaster of all time. So in 3 parts, I'm gonna tell you about Pantherian. When you think of intensity, what do you think of? Well, you're probably thinking of Pantherian right now, but what elements of a roller coaster make it intense? Because if we're being real, Pantherian is not really that intense, and it doesn't really feature all the intense elements of a roller coaster. Yeah, it's got that first turn, but without it, is Pantherian really all that intense? I mean, the first turn only lasts a few seconds. So let's run through all the elements of a roller coaster that might make them intense. Everybody may think differently about what intensity actually means. To me, it's positive G's. When your feet or face gets melted into the coaster train, that is super intense. So a roller coaster like Matu is way more intense than Pantherian in my opinion. In fact, almost any old B&M invert clears Pantherian in intensity if we're talking about positive G's. Almost every single element on a B&M invert, mostly inversions, is an intense positive G moment. The moments Pantherian has is the first turn and this turn. Those are really the only ones that stand out to me. Now this could be heavily influenced by the fact that I got my rides on Pantherian early in the season. I got my 10 rides on Pantherian in March 28th and 29th, which is literally the second week that King's Dominion was open. Anyway, moving on, what else is intensity? Well, if you think it's laterals, then Pantherian probably is not the world's most intense coaster. It would actually be an old wooden coaster like Twister at Knoebels. Back when roller coasters didn't fully utilize banking, there were tons of moments of laterals. So rides like Twister could be the most intense roller coaster ever if you think laterals is really intense. But if you think airtime equals intensity, then Pantherian has a really strong case for being the world's most intense coaster. I mean, this hill right here is a fantastic airtime moment, and there are tons of other ejector pops throughout the ride. With these snaps, it delivers a strong dose of ejector airtime, however it only lasts for less than a second. And there are 2 other airtime hills like this one, but it's trimmed to death, and this one you're going kinda slow. It also banks to the right at the end. Even with all these ejector airtime moments, it doesn't have the amount of airtime that it should have to be the most intense. Rides such as Mako would be way more intense than Pantherian if you're counting quantity of airtime. If you're counting quality and still quantity, Steel Vengeance would be your ride. It's my number one for this specific reason, and it would definitely be the most intense as of airtime. If you're talking about strength of airtime, El Toro would probably be the best. There are 4 extremely strong airtime moments, similar to Pantherian with the 2 extremely strong positive G moments, but I believe only a few small moments does not make an entire ride super intense. Oh yeah, and if you think launches are the most intense part of a roller coaster, then rides like Storm Runner or hydraulic launch coasters would definitely be your ride. Finally, if you think stats determine a roller coaster's intensity, then you're wrong first of all, but definitely it's Falcon's Flight. However, Pantherian would definitely be a good case, as it does have some very good stats, although not being the tallest in the United States. Finally, enough talking about intensity, let's actually talk about Pantherian. What makes it the best coaster in the world? Now let's talk about the ride. You go to Jungle Expedition and walk up to Pantherian. You travel under this arch as you immerse into the world of Pantherian. It's completely isolated from the rest of the coasters or even rides. But it's got its own really cool little area with tons of statues, including this centerpiece that's a panther. It looks great and got completely rethemed for 2026. Then you go over to the actual entrance of the ride where there's a few different lanes you can go to. Once you chose your lane, you'll be in the line, but you're probably not going to wait too long, as it's so secluded and also pretty intense according to the general public. Then you'll go into the station and check out your new train. Both front and back row are great rows, but I think the front is slightly better. After that, you'll be off on the lift hill after jungle sounds play. Once the entire train makes it onto the lift hill, you'll be racing up, and before you know it, you're looking at the view that you're about to plunge down. It's a pretty decent view, but you're not really looking at any of the park. However, the entire park is probably looking at you, because 305 feet is really tall, and everybody can see it from anywhere in the park. However, the best views are from the Ferris wheel as well as the Eiffel Tower. But then again, that can be said about any ride or even anything at King's Dominion. But now you're plunging 300 feet down the drop. It's a good drop that gives a good dose of ejector airtime, but for its size, I think it should be a bit better. And then you hit the infamous right-hand turn. At this point, you're getting pretty good positives, but over here, now you're starting to gray out. And that doesn't stop until you reach nearly the peak of this hill over here. Don't expect to get a blackout or even a full gray out at all if you're riding in a colder time. This is what I had to experience, which may be why I'm saying that it's not that intense. Anyway, after that, you go on this massive 200 plus foot hill. And like most airtime hills, it gives some great airtime in the front as you enter it, but as you exit it, it gives some amazing ejector airtime in the back. I was really not expecting just how much airtime this hill gives towards the back. It really feels like you're flying for a long time too. And then as you exit the hill, you bank to the left. You're really flying at this point, but then you snap into this airtime hill. Although it's not really an airtime hill, you kind of just flatten out. But it doesn't really matter, as either way you get a great pop of ejector. But then after that, you swoop down as you keep turning left. Still staying low to the ground at this point to maintain as much speed as possible. You're probably going at least 80 miles an hour, and then you whip into this other snap. This is where the ride truly shines, and is definitely known for. These snaps give some insane ejector airtime, but only a pop though. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, then you're definitely going to enjoy the next one that it throws at you. This is kind of your third snap of the ride, and before actually knowing the layout of Pantherian, this is really all I thought it was. After that snap, I would say you go into the second most intense part of the ride. This turn kind of feels like the first turn, but toned down a little bit, but it's really intense for positive G's. And then similar to the first turn, you go into an airtime hill. However, this one is trimmed so much. Here you are robbed of your amazing ejector airtime that I know this can offer. And it does offer a little bit, but not that much. I really hope King's Dominion will add adjustable trims, because these ones are fixed and it's not that fun. I actually thought that Pantherian would valley on a colder morning. Enough complaining about the trims, because after you exit this airtime hill, you go into yet another one, but this one is banked to the right. It doesn't give that much great airtime, but it is still decent. Then you go into a very violent snap, and although it's not taken at a super high speed, it still is pretty good, as the direction change was very instant. This snap makes the trims extremely necessary, as if it was going any higher speed, it would definitely kill you. I mean, come on, look at that. It gives some pretty good airtime though. And then you go into another left-hand turn and final snap into the brakes. This final snap is the one last thing that Pantherian throws at you, ending your 5,100 feet of track journey. But these brakes do not stop you, and that's why Pantherian can only run 2 trains, as this brake section does not count as a block zone. Anyway, feeling wise, it gives you a great chance to catch your breath. Then you go into a final right hand turn and into the real brakes, and then into the station. Now you've actually ended your 5,100 feet of track. That may sound like a lot of track, and it is, but when you're going at 80, 90 miles an hour even, it's not really that much. And that's the only issue with Pantherian. It's a little bit too short. There's no doubt that Pantherian is one of the best rides in the world, but I'm here to tell you that it actually is the best ride in the world. Now, I'm not saying it's the best experience in the world. We go to some ride like Rollercoaster. I'm calling that an experience because it's a big package bundle of theming and ride layout. It has pretty good layout, but I think the overall ride is probably not as good as Pantherian. Let's look at the real elements on Velocicoaster. We have the top hat here, which seems to be one of the best. We have this stall, which looks pretty good. We have this wave turn, which Pantherian's snaps are probably better. We've got this wacky S-hill, but it's also like an outer bank. We've got this overbank, which seems kind of mid. And then the Mosasaurus roll, which is the best element on both rides by far. Now, of course, there is the dive loop in this first half, which seems pretty decent, but other than that, it's mostly just weaving around theming elements. I'm not hating on Rollercoaster because it looks like a fantastic ride and probably be my number one. But if we're judging both rides on being a roller coaster, I think Pantherian would be the best ride ever. I'm not saying it has to be your favorite, I'm just saying it's objectively the best. It doesn't matter what you like in a roller coaster, it's just the best. It has it all. It's like the jack of all trades. For example, Steel Vengeance is my number one. It's my favorite roller coaster that I ever rode, purely based on the amount of airtime it has. Now, it definitely is the best for airtime, and it's certainly my favorite roller coaster for that. Any roller coaster can be your favorite. It just depends on what you like in roller coasters. For me, it's airtime, so Steel Vengeance is the best. But there is objectively best roller coasters overall, and it's Pantherian. It doesn't matter what you like in roller coasters, this ride has it all. It has airtime, laterals, positives, stats, literally anything. It's so fast, it feels like King Kaka's launched the entire ride. Judging it off of purely a roller coaster experience, it is the best. It's not Velocicoaster because that's an overall experience. It's not just based on a roller coaster, it's also based on theming. By pure layout and overall feel, this is the best one. So sorry to all you Velocicoaster, Steel Vengeance, and Mako Glazers, this is the best roller coaster ever objectively. You can have your own opinions, but this is actually the best one. It's not my number one or even number two, but it's one of my favorite rides ever and will continue to be because it's just so good. So there you go, that's why Pantherian is the greatest ride ever, and it's also not that intense. Subscribe and watch another one of my great opinions. See you in my next video. Goodbye, guys.